set. These things go in kind of order. From the beginning, we talked about how to just do spider exercises to move our fingers up and down the fretboard. When we're moving our fingers up and down the fretboard, this is just, it does nothing for us besides it helps our fingers know where to play in between the frets. The concept of taking any chord that you know, like most people know how to play a D major on a mandolin. We have the two outside notes, the G string and then the E string being played at the second fret with two fingers. You can also play other fingerings along with that, which would constitute a D major chord. However, we're just gonna keep it super simple today. If you're on the mandolin following today, I could play a multitude of things. Throw it in the comment section if you jump on here. Either way, I'm going to stick with one until somebody asks me about another and give a couple examples. This is going to kind of be a little under, 5, 8, 10 minutes. If you like the way I teach, please subscribe. If you have comments, throw them below. Other than that, have fun today. 15, we're doing progression. So let's just pick a key. Mandolin, it feels like we should be in the key of G. We could also play in the key of E minor, but to keep it super simple, we're gonna play G major and form around its minor 6, that natural minor. A lot of songs have this progression. It's a 1/6 progression. Now here's an interesting concept. If you were to just keep the G major and not move your whole fingerings to the bar chord that exhibits the D minor shape, just up at the 4th and a bar, you could play it either way. We would eventually just have our fingers here. If our E note is where, here's a D, D sharp or E flat, E, we quite literally can just keep our D in a second fingering and then add that first finger for the E note while keeping that droning G, and it sounds fantabulous. Gives the same desired effect, doesn't it? It just has a lower note. So what this is that E minor, it's still an E minor, it's just an inversion. It throws the low G down on the bass. E, G, B. Awesome. So when we're going through the process as English, don't get thrown off by the music theory. You're not supposed to make sense in the beginning. It's supposed to be something we talk about, and then you get used to hearing these tools of communication, the actual names of what these are. Triads are chords. Triads with 7s in them are 7 chords. You can use these in different ways, and the why, and the when, and the where is up to you. And the reason why is progressions. If you have a ditty in your head that is, I don't know, like 3 blind mice, we would have a 3, 2, 1 key of G. So example, G major, bar it on up, play second finger on the 3rd fret of the A, and then skip a finger, skip a fret, put that pinky all the way up on the 5th of the E. That's our A minor. We're gonna take that whole chord, not a half step, but a whole step. That's a B minor. And what we're looking at is if you look at those things, chords, triads, and ideas of first finger, if you take your second finger and have it already ready there, that means that you can play your G major with your second finger and do a quick slide up. Frankly, I don't even move my finger, and that note becomes generally part of my melody. Why? Those two notes specifically, my B and my C, are in the key of G as my 3, 4. So if I have G, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, it makes a nice movement to go. See how I'm using that E from the aforementioned G6? Here's a G major, throwing the E over the top of it gives us a G6. It's just that's a minor 6 to it. When we're moving through there, if I were to throw my A minor and my B minor shape in there, it might be a little bit too much for my melody to move with my fingers. So I kind of grace them and play these chords around them. If my melody consisted of something like pretty-ish. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna rock that out, put a different rhythm with it. If that's the basis of your structure and that's what you've been jamming in for 5, 10, 15 minutes, or dare I say 15 years, maybe those ideas of using our 2-note chords and getting away from playing with the same 2 fingers and being bound, playing with no first finger on the mando and using your secondary fingerings is really cool because it allows you to see your majors up here are essentially the same thing you've been playing with your bar chords. You could do this in C major, C major, D major, E major, or C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, so on and so forth. When we take a look at the mandolin in depth, you'll find that it's not too terribly hard to play, even though you think all the strings are upside down, it's backwards. Check out my channel if you're looking for chords. If not, there are many different resources to find those on. So right now I'm just gonna play a little ditty on guitar here, and I wanna see if we could pick out some chords for it. What key am I playing in? How am I sitting on this chair? What key am I playing in? How about let's play in the key of A. A major, C minor, A major, B minor, C sharp minor, D major. We could play E major up here. We could bar it and play the cage system with this big old C, C sharp, D sharp, E. Or we could just go back to our standard E major, the one we learned first fret. Boom. If you have any questions about what these chords are, check out my channel. Maybe even check out Monday Music. I think it was number 4 talked about this. Maybe not through the eyes of D major, but what a major scale is. Right after our major 5th, we have a minor 6, and then we've got a diminished. Now, don't be thrown off by your diminished chords. We talk about it 2 ways here functionally on this channel. If you are a beginner player, there's nothing wrong with knowing what a dominant chord is and throwing that 5th in there. If you're playing in the key of A, B, C, D, E. When we get rid of our 3rd finger here, whoop, and we open up this note on the D string, which is now an E. It goes from an E to a D sharp, then to a D. When we influence E major with the E flat or the D sharp, we get a major 7th chord. They're very pretty. They can be found all over because when we learn our shapes and we know what an A major 7 is, when we change our fingerings and just move that anywhere on the fretboard, that becomes 2 different chords. It becomes our minor chord, and it also becomes a major 7th chord. You can't tell the difference until it's in context. So what we're doing with A, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, E major, we're getting rid of our thumb completely to leave the D, which is not the 7th of the note, the C sharp. It is the actual, whatever key we're in. So we would have basically the D going from a D, or E, E flat, D, and the key of E, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. We only have 4 sharps in there, so when we throw them in, C sharp, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp are already there from the previous chords. So when we're moving through the prospects of seeing a chord progression, these are the chords we use. Meaning, if A is our 1, and we know that B comes after A in the alphabet musically, going to C sharp minor, if we go to a C minor, it is a chord. It isn't just functionally in the 7 diatonic chords that are A major. So with A, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, E major, we've got an F sharp minor. We use that by playing an E major, but we take off our first finger for the G sharp. That gives us an E minor. Well, if that's an E minor, when we move it up to the F sharp and bar, that gives us an F sharp minor. The aforementioned E7 can be played as our G sharp diminished if we would like to, or we can just keep it rocking there and play the actual note. Our actual note would inquire upon the notes of our first finger on the 4th fret, 2nd finger on the 5th fret of the A. We're gonna take our finger all the way up top here and then throw down our double digits. Or we can just keep our fingers going in a straight line, which is another great one. Another thing we can do is find the G sharp up top, the high note right here, lay down a big bar, and then lay down 2 fingers. We would get, this is another great way to make it diminish. It looks a lot like a D major, but we move it horizontally and scoot it up anywhere. In fact, if you were to go from a D major, move that over and throw it down, this is how you form exact chord. Anywho, when we're playing the A, the easier way to do it would be to play the fifth of any chord. Just for comparison, let's get out of the key of E major with the 4 sharps and go to the key of C major. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor. We're gonna have our first finger on the B, second finger's gonna go on the F, third finger's gonna go all the way up top on the D note, and we're gonna wrap the pinky around for the 4th fret on the G. That gives us our B diminished. Now a lot of people could play half diminished. You can play these kind of really cool jazzy chords, flat 5 chords. We'll talk about those in other videos. However, the one we're talking about right now can just be played the B, F, double bookend up top to the D, and pinky on the 3rd fret to get the, or 4th to get the. When we use this chord, this is our resolution. It's the moving note. It's the 7th, the leading tone. When you hear this, you want to hear it resolve to the root. What key are we in? C. Well, what was the 5th of C? C, D, E, F, G. Same concept applied with that moving down of the notes in the key of E, where I jumbled up the word, said it was in D. Long story short, the moving of the E down to the E flat to the D is a whole step. Well, when we're in the key of, what do we have? G. Moving the G down, a whole step gives us a G7. So functionally, C, D, E, F, G, A, G7, C works. But we just don't call it G7. We call it a B diminished. Why? The triad that's built off of there is still a B, D, F. You still have those notes. Here's an F. You have a G in here. However, it's just the 4th note, as if it was a 6th, a 7th, a 2nd, or 4th. What we're doing is we're seeing chords in more than just a 3-note triad. What I really like to do is in some of these get into SATB writing and show how to actually make a melody, move the chords, and a couple of little caveats to make sure that you're keeping your notes with classic or traditional type rules or phrasings. It helps us keep centered, and then we can go anywhere from there. So a progression we're going to do today is in the key of A, E, C. The kind of idea is if we write it in C, we can write it in A, we can write it in G. It's already there. It's just a progression. So if we were playing a popular progression, just a 1-4-5-4, we would have C major, C, D, E, F, F major, C major, and then G major. The reason why is C, D, E, F, 1, 2, 3, 4 would be an F major, and the key is C. The 4th is always a major. When we go to the 5th, it also is always a major. So we play a G major. C, D, E, F, G, C, F, G. If we were playing another popular progression, it would be like a lot of Beatles tunes, a lot of, just heavy, heavy, heavy guitar. That is a C major to a B flat. Now you're saying B flat is not in the key of C major. We have a B, but it's not a B major either. It's a B diminished. So what did we do? Playing a C major and going to a B flat? Well, if we're in the key of C, we modulated to another key. We changed our key signature. That B flat could be in a multitude of other keys. It could be an E flat, it could be an F, it could be in B flat. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about later chord analysis on how you can find those same notes and triads, and then how to color code those so your brain really looks at those on the grand staff. It'll be a visual exercise, and that'll be a different exercise. So for today, what I would like to do is just go over a couple different progressions that are super popular. If you dig them, write down your favorite popular progression, and then maybe even put up some music showing what you've done. A major, if we're playing the 1, and then if we were playing the same thing as C to the B flat, if I said we were not in the key of C and we were in the key of F, what is F and a B flat? Well, F is the 1, G minor would be the 2, we have an A minor would be the 3, and then a B flat major would be the 4. Well, if we had a C, that would be a major 5. So in the key of F, going from C to B flat is a 5-4. Bodhisattva, won't you take me by the hand? Bodhisattva. When we play this, it doesn't necessarily have to be in that key. If you're hearing a song like that one, Steely Dan, Bodhisattva, in your head off of that, it's because you have key recognition or chord recognition. what happens is you could go to any chord and go, okay, well, if we're in the key of G, G, A, B, C, D, D, C, D, C. Bodhisattva, won't you take me by the hand? Bodhisattva, that doesn't feel right. How about A? What's A? A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp is my 6, so we have E and D. Bodhisattva, won't you take me by the hand? That feels closer. How about F? F, G, A, B flat, C. That's when we started on. How about B flat? B flat. Let's go all the way up here so you can get a visual representation. We could have B flat. We're gonna go C. We're gonna go to D, E flat, F, G, A, and then we're gonna go back to E flat. So where's our 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4. So we've got an F and we've got an E flat. It's a little hard to go from F to E flat. Bodhisattva, won't you take me by the hand? But we could go up here to another bar chord. That's based off of our A. Or we could play a D major here and then move it up a half step. That also is an E flat major. But what I would like to do is show you if you flip those, teeter-totter, you now have a finger to play that E flat. And it's much easier to go from this F chord with the E bass stock and put a finger here and then throw a D up than it is to actually just go back and forth. Your hand gets really cramped up. This is a great way to get... Great way to practice your chords too, to jump from back and forth. Anywho, when you hear progressions like this, whether it's somewhere 1 7, you'll hear that these natural notes are part of our natural environment. When you hear them, those become the melodies. So today, I kind of diddled around on a couple of songs, and I found that a lot of what I've been writing has been counter to what is in the chord. There's a lot of passing accent notes in a lot of the melodies that we use. So what would be fun in the key of, like, let's say C again, just write a little melody in a popular progression. C major to F major is a 1, 4. Here comes a 1. Here comes a 5. Now it made its way to that dominant 1, little 4, is because that F right here feels like it's unsure about where it wants to go. So when we get back to here, we're gonna fall through and go back to the dominant. That chord is bringing it in. The reason why the dominant is very interesting in a major is because the dominant itself is found there. When we're in the key of C major, I don't necessarily have to keep that note of G with that C, but if I'm trying to distinguish if I'm major or minor, I definitely want to have that E note inside of there. The C and the E would give the listener or the vibration the context that it is a major feeling sound. When we're moving from that, I like to see if we're moving a melody. So if our melody had like something like the aforementioned from the mandolin, what was that? In this key it would be like a, no, that's upside down. So in D maybe, but we can play it up in G if we wanted to. The idea is if we're changing the sounds to goof for progression and I wanted to move it from one instrument to another, I would write it in the key of the instrument so I would be able to easily read it. However, the chord progressions would always be the same. You just have to transpose for your particular instrument. So for here, let's just do a C to an F to a C to a G. For the rest of this, I just want to focus on dynamics and rhythms on the right hand. If we were counting this, we'd have 8th note, 8th note, 8th note, 8th note, 8th note, 8th note, 8th note. Notice I'm only playing one of the strokes while doing an up, down. I could just go. But when I do down, up, that second up is just a rest. So when I'm doing it, it's completing that feeling of, it keeps me in time to go. Why? It's a full motion. So progressions, when we start, if we have a C to an F, C to a G, this is a 1-4-1-5 progression. If we took another standard popular progression and just put like a jazz type of progression in between there, a good jazz progression is a 2-5-1. So when we play the 2-5-1, let's hold that 1 out a little longer. If we were to play 1 to 4, that is a C to F. 1 to 5 is a C to G. If we were to play the 2 on a C, C, D, we would have a D minor, and then the aforementioned G major, and then back to the 1. So if we hold that last 1 out 2 times with the same rhythm, we get something like this. And a brain fart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now here's where the interesting thing of the rhythm comes. Since I've already set it up with this rhythm, I can do a couple of different caveats by subdividing those rhythms. I can either wait for that D minor to make it special, or keep it on the C and play a little lighter, articulate. Play around with these chords that you do, what you'll find is you'll find a rhythm and a melody that'll fit over the top. Just by playing this, what came into my brain was something like a, I'll vocalize it. So if that's the beginning of the song, it has a kind of melody feeling. We also, in the key of C, have a bunch of other chords. We've used the 1, we've used the 4, we've used the 5, we've used the 2. Let's try using 2 other chords in lieu of the D minor in place and then play through. So what do I mean? Let's use the chord right before the D minor. So what is that? That's the C, that's our root. We played the C to the F, the C to the G. Now this time, rather than going to the D minor, try playing an A minor to an E minor, and then to a C. What we're gonna be doing is or an A minor to an E minor to a G, and then back to that C. What it does is it omits the D, and you're putting the E minor and the A minor in the space of that D minor. Here's what it would feel like: A minor, E minor, G, and then back to the C. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. The original D minor, G to C, 2, 3, 4. C. This time we're gonna change it after our first progression. Na, 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 na. Here's our. Na, 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 na. Very subtle, maybe a little too minory, but the movement. Try it reversed. Maybe trying 1, moving a bass line for it. Moving the top line too also helps when moving the bass. A, B, C, E, F sharp, G. You can throw that F in correlating, and it's called counterpoint. Long story short, when moving through this, we can see how the C major, F major, C major, G major has a beautiful D, G major, and a resolution back to our 1. When changing that D minor to another minor chord, you can stay with the same feeling, hold it out longer for impact, use that other minor. These two are a lot different. You could go back and forth and call this a B section. When doing these progressions, the way you would call this is you'd have a 1, 4, 1, 5. The first time through, you would go to a D minor, which would be our 2, 5, 1. Now, how would we get to the minor 6? We're just holding it out. It's a B section. And then we're going to do an E minor, which is our minor 3. Now, these are not typical minor movements. However, they do work through the eyes of writing a song. And if you wanted to play this E minor one more time, we've already had a G in there. Maybe we could play the G as a sus. So a G sus4 would have a C over the top. G major sus4. Here we go. Now maybe just back to a G major. Get a little weird. Play an E major with a G sharp. And then end on the E minor. Nah, I'd say end on the A major. It moves there. As the G sharp and there's the leading tone. So it modulated at the end. So not all songs are going to be winners. That's what it is. But here's the idea. If you write something every day and you try your progressions, whether it's a jazz 2-5-1 phrasing, it's a popular pop phrasing like a six, 1, 5, 4. I know that we're playing chords over the top that are droning, but you essentially have E minor, G major, D major, and C major. In the key of G, that is essentially a 6, 1, 5, 4 melody. So one of the conquests you might have this week is picking one song that you like and then playing it out and trying to put the numerical code over it that we've been going over through these sessions. I hope you have a great Monday, and we'll see you next week. Aloha.